Okay, Nick, first of all, just good to be in Belfast, signing a 3-year deal with Mark Dunlop.
Aye, definitely. The last 4 years has all been building up towards this. I've put a lot of hard work in, I've been training, been away with the Scotland national team, done a lot of different things, and it's all added up to finally, turning over and seeing where it takes us.
You're 31 now, you're turning professional, but you were a rugby union player for a long time.
I played professional rugby for 8 years. First off at Glasgow Warriors, then Jersey Reds, 4 years at both clubs. I started playing rugby when I was 9, believe it or not. At that time I was still interested in boxing, but as rugby kind of took over, I stopped boxing and concentrated on the rugby. And coming towards the latter stage of my career when I was 27, I started getting thoughts that, I should maybe just have a go at this and see where it can take me. And then at the end of the last contract I had at Jersey, I decided I was going to stop playing. I had a few other offers on the table at the time, but I decided that I was going to go down the path of boxing and see where it could take me.
You say you started boxing when you were younger. Your granddad had a part to play in that as well. He boxed a bit himself.
My grandfather was a professional boxer. He actually started boxing when he was 14, believe it or not, in the booths at the time. He was travelling circus. He left home when he was 14, travelling circus. He left the booths when he was 19, joined the army to do his national service in the early 50s, and ended up boxing for the army. He boxed at the Olympic Stadium in Berlin when he was based out there. Then when he came back after his national service, he became a professional boxer. He moved down to Glasgow from Elgin, up north in Scotland, and he met my gran, and the story's history, but I boxed at Paisley Ice Rink quite a few times. I think Muhammad Ali even had an exhibition bout there once upon a time, so it's always run in the family, and it's always been an interest. We would talk about boxing, watch boxing, everything like that, and that's always just been a passion of mine. My dad.
And who were your inspirations, the boxing inspirations when you were younger?
Well, when I was growing up, Lennox Lewis was the main man, and he's a heavyweight, and I've always been a pretty big lad, so I always liked watching Lennox. Joe Kozagi was always a great fighter, one of the top British fighters. I've been to watch him at the Millennium Stadium, and obviously enough Ricky Hatton as well. Loved watching him. I can remember he fought Mayweather on my birthday, and all me and my mates came out to watch it, and it was brilliant at 3 in the morning or 4 in the morning it was, but just loved the buzz around it. And obviously enough, one of my all-time heroes is Muhammad Ali. I know it's a bit generic, but I can remember growing up watching when we were kings and all these old fights and documentaries and snippets with my old man. So they're probably 4 or 5 of my, when I was growing up, the main men that I love to watch and hear about and listen to.
And there's some good heavyweights about at the minute in the division. Tyson Fury, Joshua.
I actually had the pleasure of meeting Joshua when I went down to GB in Sheffield with Scotland for a training camp, and he was in preparation for his fight with Andy Ruiz then, the second one, and I got to watch him train. He's the same age as me, but just to watch him operate and what a top class professional he is was really interesting. It was good to see as well. Obviously Tyson. I really like Tyson Fury. He's a great fighter, and he's got the fighting to back up his talk. So it's a massive. And then out with that, you've got Dylan White coming back to fight Povetkin soon. That'll be interesting. You've got Usyk, who's just came up to the heavyweight division. There's loads of great fighters at that weight. Joe Joyce and Daniel Dubois have just fought. Even young and up and coming heavyweights, there's loads of them. There's too many for me to think off the top of my head, but it's a massive division now, and I think it's really been revived in the last 5 or 6 years, so it's exciting to be a small part of that.
You were a professional rugby player for 8 years. Mm-hmm. You must have really had a burning ambition to try boxing.
Yeah, like I say, it was always a passion. Might sound stupid, but that way when you're trying to get yourself up for games or training, or you'd always have that wee flash of yourself boxing or something fight related, or it's always just been a kind of, I suppose you could say it's been a burning passion inside me. I've always loved the sport, always loved hearing about classic fights or watching classic fights, listening to stories from people who've been involved in it, And it's just always been, it's never really left me, as you can guess. I've always just loved the sport and loved everything to do with it.
You've left professional rugby to turn into a boxer. Those are two tough sports to follow each other.
Well, a lot of people, I mean, even when I speak to Mark, he kind of talks about rugby being tougher than boxing, and you know, I don't know about that, but there's certain aspects of it that definitely are. I mean, the injuries that come with it, the training, the games are physical. People are just getting bigger, and it's a brutal sport. As a brutal sport, but I suppose a lot of the skills that I've learnt from rugby are transferable to boxing. You know, the discipline, perseverance with things, learning new skills, training habits, diet habits, everything. So hopefully, you know, the best things and best transferable skills that I learnt from rugby will transfer over to my boxing, and hopefully I can, you know, utilise the wee bits that I've learnt from that and the stuff I've learned in the last 4 years, make the most of it.
You said the last 4 years you've been fighting boxing amateur. Do you think now's the time's right just to turn professional and give it a go? You're 31, so.
I think there's quite a few contributing factors towards it. One of my goals when I first started boxing was to win a Scottish Championship at amateur level, and I managed to achieve that. Then off the back of that, I became part of the Scotland Elite Boxing Group, where I had some amazing experiences, been away to Thailand, Russia, boxed in different tournaments internationally against top boys in England, you know, and was exposed to a lot of, you know, high level quality training, which perhaps I shouldn't have really been considering my experience. But just with the pandemic, you know, amateur boxing's kind of at a standstill at the moment, even at the top amateur level. So your national stuff is really stuck. I'm not getting any younger. You know, if I was 21, 22, I might be looking at it differently, but I just feel like, you know, with everything going on in the world right now, and I can't really afford to hold out another year and a half for something that, you know, could or couldn't happen, whereas I can do this and I'm in control of it to a certain extent, and at the end of the day I've only got myself to hold accountable for it. It's been my decision, and what will be will be. There'll be no regrets. I've given it my best shot and I'll put 100% into it and see where it takes me.
You've signed a 3-year deal with Mark.
Yeah.
What are the plans for, say, the opening 12 months of that contract?
Well, it's almost like starting again to a certain extent. We learn, you know, amateur to professional, there's different style. It's a different style of fighting, to be honest with you. It's longer round, a longer fight, setting into shots, learning new skills, learning, you know, some of the bad habits I've got, trying to get rid of them, some of the amateur style I've got, transferring that into that professional style. So getting as many fights as possible. I think Mark said for the first year he wants to try and get me out 4 or 5 times. He's a man of his word, so I'm sure he'll stick to that. Get as much experience as I can in terms of sparring and training, just expose myself as much to the highest level that I can get, and try and learn as much as possible for it, and try and set me up for whatever's down the line.
Mark's done a great job with James Tennyson and Paul Hennon Jr. and Tommy McCarthy and there's other fighters. You hope to do the same sort of job for yourself, push you on and get you the right fights?
Definitely. I mean, I know the heavyweight division's absolutely jam-packed at the moment with busting with talent, but there's never been a Scottish, British or Commonwealth heavyweight champion, never. And I mean, that's got to be a goal. Whether we do it or not, we'll wait and see, we'll give it our best shot, but it's got to be something that you aspire to. And you know, you look at the boys that Mark's managing at the moment, he's got James Tennyson, who's, you know, British, Commonwealth, holds title, European champion. Tommy just won a European championship. These other lads, he's moving into British title contention, British title shots. He's got an exciting stable, and they're all, you know, challenging for the titles. So I suppose when you join a stable like that, you're kind of looking at them and going, you know, this is what's expected of you, and you need to give it your best shot, apply yourself 100% and see what can happen.
And the ultimate aim would be a title of some description, Commonwealth?
Yeah, listen,
British?
never say never. That's why you get into it. I'm not here to be a journeyman or do this, and Mark's definitely not assigned me to do that. So that's the main goal, and we'll give it 100%. We'll see what happens, and I try and make a bit of history, good memories, and try and achieve something, do something worthwhile.